Framers, they're the ones that come out and they build the structural portions of a house. The floors, floor joists, they frame the walls, install the studs. They'll also install roof systems, rafters, trusses, things like that. Basically, the framer does all the work that needs to be done before somebody's going to put the siding in or the sheetrock. The plumbers, they're the ones that get the site after the groundwork has been done.
As we're framing, we don't have structure that's able to hold 5,000 pounds or 1,800 pounds. We don't have a lot of fall clearance below the people who are working up their framing. So when we look at that, active fall protection is probably not the most effective means of providing protection for those workers. We should be looking at what can we do on the ground? How much of this can we build on the ground at that lower level and stand up complete? Can we scaffold around it? Can we bring in interior scaffolding in or work platforms? Can we bring exterior scaffolding or work platforms in? Can we build things off-site, bring them in modules and set them up so that we don't have people working at heights on thin boards or at very low clearances? Do we have to prepare and do our pre-task planning so that we are setting up large overhead anchor points if we can't scaffold, we can't work off ladders, or we can't have any other means? How are we going to anchor in those situations? Are there things that we can bring in that instead, for interior falls, instead of trying to tie people off and keep them from falling towards the interior, because we use a lot of guardrails once we're framed up on the exterior walls to create protection on an exterior fall, but we still have falls a lot of times to the interior of the building. Are there ways to fill that void with something so that we don't have a 6-foot fall, or if somebody falls, they fall into or onto something like netting for the interior? So we need to start thinking out of the box when it comes to framing and wood framing especially, on what our fall protection solutions could be.
So some of the most common types of fall protection that framers can use to help keep their employees safe, I'm seeing a lot more of guardrails being installed on walls before they're stood, so that as soon as they're stood, as they're framing that next floor in, they already have that guardrail in place. That's a lot quicker than setting up anchors in some cases, and it provides a really good visual barrier as well. I've seen a lot of them using fall restraint, simply because if you're working off of a floor, the idea is that you don't want to have to get to the point where you fall out, right? Another one that I've seen them using is the Self-Retracting Lifelines. It provides a lot of freedom of movement. There's less worry about adjusting for the employee. Wherever they're at, it's adjusted correctly. And I think that's one thing that's really come into play that's helped some contractors buy into the fall protection. One of the other fall protection systems that I've seen mainly framing contractors use is scaffolding, or carpenter scaffolding, where instead of standing on top of the wall plate to, say, set trusses, they're standing on a built-in scaffolding system. It's a couple of feet down from the top of the wall. And that way they actually have better leverage with those trusses, and they're not exposed to the fall to the outside of the buildings. They're in better control and they don't have that hazard there.